Hey docs, I've got a tip here that I know is going to help out all chiropractors. This one is specifically aimed at the docs in Europe. But again, it's going to help all chiropractors as we walk through this. The reason I'm bringing this up is I'm going to be speaking at Chiro Europe, and I know the vitalistic tribe of docs over in Europe. These three things are what they often hate and want to avoid the most. So if you hang with me through this video, I'll solve this riddle for you because I know a lot of chiropractors in Europe that avoid the pain conversation. They don't like it, but oftentimes they have to do it in the practice, or they're telling themselves they have to do it. The reality is, if they don't want pain-based conversations and talk and office visits, if they want to get away from pain, then you've got to get something closer to performance, or said differently, functionality. So if it isn't pain, then we've got to move them towards performance. If you don't like mechanistic concepts in chiropractic, only back pain, only neck pain, then really you would consider yourself a vitalistic chiropractor. There's a way to make a shift from a mechanistic office and procedures into a vitalistic. I'll clear up. And if you're one of those docs that hates selling, then I promise you what you need to do is put your patients on a plan. So again, if you're not into pain, then we've got to shift your procedures and conversations to performance or function. If you're not into mechanism, then vitalistic chiropractic care is what you need to have in your office, but it's got to be reflected in everything you say and do. And then the third one is selling. I know so many European docs, especially in Europe, they hate this idea of selling. And the reality is, if you don't have your patients on a plan, then you sell at the table every visit. What happens is you adjust somebody and then you say, how does it feel? Is it moving any better? Do you feel less pain? Oh, cool. We'll come back for one more visit and then we'll get it all cleared up. Pain, mechanism, and then you're selling at the adjustment. You see, if you don't want to sell, put people into a plan, talk about vitalism at your daily visits, and then working back up the ladder, you'll look at performance on the re-exams. So the truth is, you put them in a plan first, and then we move them up this ladder into vitalism, and then your checkups and re-exams are performance-based. So instead of doing pain, mechanism, selling, put people into a plan. 12 visits, 24 visits, whatever you think is right. But I'll tell you, the docs in the UK, we've got the research and the literature that you can even do care plans longer than 24 visits because of the scientific research that will back you up on this. And I'm talking GCC standards because of the scientific double-blind peer-reviewed research that's required. We've got it. So let's get out of pain, mechanism, and selling and move them up the ladder this way. But the reality is they have to be in a plan in order to do that. Now, the way that that works is you have to understand what your philosophy is. My belief is chiropractic is good for mechanism and back pain, but that's a small part of a bigger picture called vitalism. Within vitalism, there's room for mechanism, so I'm okay with it if you want to practice mechanistically. But don't limit the rest of us vitalists because of that. So a philosophy is your belief system. While we might believe vitalistically and talk about it to our colleagues at places like Chiro Europe, I see very few European offices that have procedures that reflect their philosophy. There's a huge disconnect, there's an incongruence, and inevitably that leads to, at the very least, friction in your office. If you ever want to know where you have a disconnect from your philosophy to the procedures, you just have to look for your dramas. And that's a good inventory for your team, and it's a pretty deep statement. But if there's a disconnect or an incongruence from philosophy to procedures, you have dramas in your office in those areas. Moving further down, once you get your procedures right, your profits go up. Now, I speak in different currencies. You see, it's not always about money as the profit center. The other currencies I like is family time, free time. I like to have more energy. I'll be speaking at Chiro Europe, but so will my 13-year-old son, Luke. Luke is going to be on stage on behalf of Nalu talking about the clothing company that helps people. So they're in the business of helping other children over in India by putting school uniforms on their back with the proceeds that they sell from Nalu. You see, the point there is not even to brag about Nalu and the cool things that these chiropractic kids are doing, Dali and Finn leading the charge, but the reality is, one of the profits I get is that I get to spend more time with my son. And when we're done speaking in Spain, we're going to go surf in Portugal and take the week and do that. So my philosophy is vitalistic, my procedures reflect it, and one of my profits is I don't need to be in my practice for it to run and be profitable. We can run a full associate model that is highly profitable, dollars, but also energy and free time. So we're doing our workshop, Elements of Closing in Europe, but I'm going to rename it. When we're in Europe, it shouldn't be Elements of Closing. We're going to call it Elements of Opening, because it really is that. It's opening a relationship. So it's not even going to be Elements of Closing in June the 2nd and 3rd in London. June 2nd, 3rd in London. We're going to call it the Elements of Opening, because the word I really want you to focus on is this one right here, is that it's formulaic. Getting people to say yes to a care plan is a formula. It's formulaic. There is a chemistry to getting people closer to yes. And when you do that, you open the relationship for lifetime chiropractic care, which is consistent with my philosophy. I'm going to teach you day 1, day 2 procedures at the Elements of Opening in Europe. It is all scripted out day 1, all scripted out day 2. Not that you need to memorize it word for word, but there's nothing hidden. It's in a 50-page manual. We give it to you, and then we role play it, and we go through it for the 2 days, so you get more people saying yes. Your procedures are tight. And let's face it, chiropractors need to start making more money. My highest currency is spending time with my kids, but that's because I've taken care of debts, student loans, mortgages, paid off, done, college education, we're responsible for it in the USA, paid for 4 children. So the proof is in the pudding here, okay? I know this to be true. When it comes to success, a lot of people glorify their failures. They want to talk about their bankruptcies. They want to make it sound like how wonderful those dark days were. And the truth is, you don't need to struggle, but you do need to work. And if you work the plan on the day 1, day 2 procedures, you'll have greater profitability. So work is required, not struggle. But here's one of the coolest things, especially for the European docs. When it comes to people saying no to your care plans, whatever plans you decide, and we'll go through this at our workshop June 2nd and 3rd in London. But what if they say no? The most important thing is that these people leave your office with their dignity. It's very much like firing an employee. And this is noteworthy for sure in many areas. With your teams, if somebody leaves, let them leave with your dignity, okay? They should be able to leave and feel good about themselves. If somebody says no to your care plans, the way that we language this, it's soft enough that they will leave with their dignity. In other words, you don't hard sell, push, grind, and try to close their asses into a plan. No, what we do is we create buyers. And if they say no, it's okay. They're going to leave with their dignity, and they're still going to like you. So this workshop's coming to Europe, okay? We're going to be there in June the 2nd and 3rd. It's the Elements of Opening, because I know culturally this concept of closing can be rough and down your throat, and it doesn't need to be. We've also rolled back our early bird prices, so at the time that this video is live, you better jump on the website, because that is where you'll get locked into some rollback prices. We're putting up the early birds again. If this makes sense to you, you don't want to talk pain at the table talk. You're sick of running a mechanistic practice. You see people for 6 or 7 visits, and then they go because they're better. And you know that chiropractic does more than that. You want to be a vitalistic chiropractor, and you want to stop selling at every visit. This is the completely contradictory to what you're thinking. That if you don't put people on a plan, you have to realize you're selling the next visit all the time, and that's exhausting. Get your philosophy congruent with your procedures, and you will run the profitability through the roof. The reality is that day 1, day 2 procedures. The exam should be fat with value. Your report of findings should be skinny on time. So we call it a fat day 1 and a skinny day 2. Fat with value through the consultation process, driving value for the patient. And then your report of findings should be no more than 12 minutes to get people to say yes. That's how it works. Work is required. Get to the workshop with us. Struggle is often glorified, and it's so insignificant. You don't need to struggle anymore. Come join us in very much a vitalistic shift. Let's get people on care plans so you can talk about the nervous system, not their pain. And I'm telling you, we're making a huge change in Europe, and if you'd like to be a part of it, we have rolled back the prices. The early bird is up now, but it won't last forever. And we sold out our first one, our first two actually, we did back in February. So if this resonates with you and your philosophy is congruent, come get the procedures to match it. And you guessed it, your profits will be there too. Cheers, everybody. I'll see you at Cover Europe.